this is not about the tools. This is about the whole answer that we are giving people. Clients don't really care what plugins you have on your site. All they need to know is where they want to go. What problems do they have on their end with their own clients that I can help them solve?
Welcome to episode 11 of season 6 of Live in the Feast. I'm Jason, aka Rez, helping you grow your business by having a conversation with someone who's been there, had success, and built the business designed around the life that they want to live. That's Live in the Feast. If this is your first time listening, where have you been? I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you get notified every time a new episode drops. Live in the Feast is in your podcast app of choice, and if it's not, let me know and I'll get it there. If you've heard the show before, leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a comment in Breaker or Castbox. Today's co-host is Mor Cohen. Mor is the founder and creator of FlixFrame. Mor is a branding and web designer with over 20 years of experience. She's now focused on educating web developers and digital marketers on how to master design so that they can charge more for their products or services. Mor and I have been in various online communities over the years for quite some time, and she and I advocate much of the same thing when it comes down to helping developers, designers, and others on building sustainable businesses. I'm excited to share this conversation with you because Mor is a designer, and much like that of another guest this season, Chris Doe on episode 3, she teaches the art of building client relationships so that you could charge for the end result of the solution to your clients, not the pixels or code that you put on the screen. In this episode, we dive into instead of educating your clients, because ultimately they don't care anyway, talk to them about how the end result of what it is that you will be doing for them helps them and their customers. We're also going to talk about how talking about budget reduces wasting time for you and your leads, and how confidence plays a critical role in your pricing. Just in case you are the type to not finish a podcast, you might be interested to stick around for a little while, just until the end. Just saying. I think you're going to love this conversation between Mor and myself. So now let me shut up and let's dive in. Hey Feasters, welcome to another episode of Live in the Feast. I am super excited to be talking with Mor Cohen. Welcome, Mor.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's funny, before we jumped on, it's funny how you have these conversations with people and you cross paths in groups and forums and all sorts of communities online, and all text-based, and then you don't get that one-on-one conversation, hey, let's pick up the phone and chat until a podcast, right? So I'm super excited to finally connect at this level, because we've both been doing this for quite some time, and that's why we are out there helping other people, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you. There's nothing like a one-on-one conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I always like to ask this question because I think oftentimes sums everything up nicely, because we do these things like sharing our experience, sharing our stories, trying to help, what a lot of people say are our competitors, right? Other designers and developers. Whereas I always look at it, everybody's like a colleague, right? So if I can help somebody get over a hurdle, I like to do that. And you as well. I mean, I see how you contribute to so many awesome communities out there, and sharing your wealth of experience and your knowledge, not just what you do on your website for your courses and memberships and things of that nature, but also, just in the community, right? So I always like to ask this question is what is your defining moment in life so far?
Hmm. I think, well, there are two major things. I think the first time that I discovered that helping a client and charging them and getting paid for my work is really not about the number of pages that I build for them, or the one logo, or anything in particular. It's about my experience and expertise, and it's about my ability to solve a problem that they have. And not all problems are the same. Each client has different problems where they require different solutions. And when I discovered kind of early on that this is where my worth is, I think it just eliminated this whole phase that I see other people going through, where they price their work according to the hours that it takes them to build a website, or the number of pages, or the this or that functionality, when really it should be about the end result.
So you said you found this early on in your career. How early was that?
Fairly early. I started as a graphic designer before there were no, not really before there was internet, but right at the beginning. And I did a lot of, it was the IPO golden era. And I did a lot of prospectus and a lot of PowerPoints and a lot of stuff that helped people get money from venture capitalists, and figured out really early on that this is not about the number of slides in the presentation, or the number of pages, or the images in the prospectus, that this is about, what are they going to get from me that will help them get where they want to go. So that was a shift really early on.
So was that something that just occurred to you, or was it did you read something? I mean, because I feel like a lot of people struggle with this. Like, they don't have that aha moment until they either fall down over themselves or somebody basically bludgeons them.
Right. Most people do. And, you've mentioned, me helping in communities. This is one of the things I talk about a lot, that this is not about the tools. This is not about the number of pages or the fonts, or this is about the whole answer that we are giving people. And I think it did occur to me naturally. I think one day I just kind of sat down and said, well, wait a minute. It doesn't really matter if the presentation has 20 slides or 50 slides. What information am I helping my client convey in a way that will help them get to where they want to go?
Yeah, that's awesome. So once you realized that, and once you kind of got over the hump, if you will, how has that changed essentially the communication level in which you have with both leads and clients?
I think that when you come from a place of providing solution and not necessarily educating clients, because clients don't really care if you use Elementor or Beaver Builder, if you are, what plugins you have on your site. They don't care. All they need to know is where they want to go. What problems do they have on their end with their own clients that I can help them solve? And if I, approach everything from that point of view, it makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah, no, well said. Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of times, and it's something that I feel like I do some level of education, but I always try to come with that education to at least set the tone of what the solution is going to be for their problem. And I think that a lot of people struggle with it. And I'm curious on your experience on this, but like what I find is, and I struggled with this as well, is still being able to say, okay, I know that this is worth $10,000, even if it's, just for argument's sake, it's 3 lines of code. I know that this is going to affect your business in this way. How do you approach it to a client to essentially say, hey, look, I'm going to charge you $5,000 for this thing that's only going to take me an hour's worth of work?
Oh, well, it's going to take me an hour because I've spent 20 years learning how to do it in an hour.
Perfect. Yeah.
So
Perfect.
It has nothing to do with how much time I spend. It has everything to do with my experience and my expertise. And honestly, I don't want to sound kind of harsh, but clients that focus on, how much they're spending and if they can get the same thing from someone else. First of all, I don't think that they can get the same thing from someone else because that person will not be me. So I know it sounds kind of,
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
It's true. So I'm sure they can get some sort of solution someplace else, and maybe it will be cheaper, but is it going to be the solution that they need that only I can provide for them? So I don't audition for projects. I get people approach me unless there's something that I feel like I really, really, really want to do. And then I go after it, some special project, but I get people approach me and I expect them to do their due diligence and know who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm capable of doing. So I have very little discussions about pricing, to be honest.
All right, let's just jump on that right there.
Okay.
So do you convey your prices right up front, right on your website before they...
Yeah, the question of budget comes up fairly early, but only after I figure out if I'm interested in the project and if the client and I kind of jive and we speak the same language. And I do ask about budget because I think not asking about budget is really, we're not helping the client by not talking about money. We're wasting their time. Not only we're wasting our own time, but we are wasting their time and their energy. And if they don't have the budget that we feel is needed to get their project done the right way, then, we wish them well and we thank them for, approaching us. But there's no reason for us to say, well, in that case, let me charge you less, because the solution will still be the same that we offered at first. So yes, I do come into the question of budget right away.
Yeah. What do you say to the young developer or the young designer that says, I don't want to put my pricing on my website or talk about budget because I feel that it pigeonholes me?
You don't need to put like a precise amount, but you definitely need to put in a range. Because that will eliminate so much time wasting on both, the designer or developer part and also from the client's perspective, because they wouldn't approach you if they know in advance that there's no way that they can afford your services. So you do want to get them engaged in a conversation as soon as possible, but it's kind of a boundary thing,
right?
Where you put that in, but you still keep the door open.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what I've done from my experience is I've put my pricing on my website, not on my website, put ballpark figures, things of that nature, like starting at X dollars, and just to kind of see what the reaction is. And each and every single time, because I mean, and I can only speak from my own experience, and maybe you can add to this too, if you've tried this sort of thing, is each and every time that I waver or I guess get more vague about my pricing, it's like the floodgates open up for bad leads.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like if I put in a specific price, a hardline price, then okay, good leads are coming through. If I put a ballpark figure in there, it's like, okay, it's a mixture of bad and good. And then if I put just starting at something, it's just like all of a sudden it's just like opened up a floodgate somewhere.
Right. But, it depends on what stage of the career this person is. If they're just starting out, obviously they are eager to get experience and maybe, don't think that they can charge as much as they should, that's okay. Then you put a range and then you filter out, the clients that way. But definitely when you get to a point where you don't have to take just every project, then you definitely need to be a lot clearer and a lot more decisive about your pricing.
What I love about what Mor is saying here about prices and displaying them on your website is because, I didn't do that in the beginning, and I found myself stuck in this rut. That rut was made because I was wasting time with tire kickers who would pick my brain for hours on end on a call and then have me go ahead and build out this proposal, right? This long proposal, only for them not to buy in the end. They had no intentions on doing so. They just wanted to pick my brain. Mor also shared how important it is to stand by your pricing. I lowered my prices at times in the beginning because I needed work. I wasn't closing it, so I needed work. How did I close that work? By lowering my prices. See how all of this stuff is connected? By doing so, I found myself working with people who just looked at me as a pair of hands on a keyboard and didn't respect the value of the work that I was providing for them. Pricing and how you stand by them is such a critical component to a sustainable and profitable business. So important that it's what Feast is all about. Inside of Feast, you'll have access to everything you need to be able to build your ideal client, not based around demographics, but based on you, your personality, your skills, and the potential market that awaits you as the go-to person. If you want worksheets and exercises and the ability to create that ideal client so that then you can become the go-to resource and charge what you're worth, head on over to feastacademy.com today. As a member, you'll get the processes and templates to not only figure out your ideal client and the services that you can provide to them, you'll also learn how to figure out the price to put on those services that makes it a complete no-brainer for the lead to sign up with you. This is why I want to invite you to check out Feast. By using the code CONFIDENCE, you can get your first month for only $20. Feast is the community and resource hub for developers and designers ready to get off that project searching hamster wheel and actually run the business that they set out to build. Feast helps position you in the market with what you do, who you help, and helps you build the processes and systems for client management, sales, marketing, delivery, and of course, pricing. Your business isn't the same as everyone else's. I get that. So when you become a member of Feast, you get personalized guidance from myself. It is essential for me to meet you where you are and make sure that you are getting the exact tools so that you don't get lost in the shuffle. The moment you sign up, we're going to have a chat. Yes, we are, so that I can create a custom syllabus of resources inside of Feast to meet you where you are. If you want to stop chasing down that next project all the time so that you can start living your life, go to feastacademy.com and use the code CONFIDENCE at checkout, and your first month is just $20. So we had Vito Peleg on a previous episode, same season. And he shared that it was all a mindset for him, like where he felt like he was providing a certain value and this is what I want to charge for that value.
Absolutely.
And this is when he was starting out even, like, and he was helping his team members also kind of suss through this a little bit. And he shared a story where he told his friend to say, yeah, charge $300 for that, or $3,000 for, I think it was. And his friend did it, wound up getting a job, And then his friend came back to him and said, well, why did you charge $3,000 for it? He goes, I don't know. I just threw a number out. You believed that it was worth $3,000 and the client believed that as well. So I love that story because it's like, even in starting out, and yes, it's difficult. Like if you are just starting or you're transitioning from full-time into your own business, starting out pricing, you're like, hey, what do they charge per hour for the stuff that I do on Upwork and all these other sites? But I would encourage you to take a step back while you have to kind of gauge the market a little bit. But take a step back and try to believe in it. Like throw the number and see if it sticks to the wall, right? And keep doing that. And see what happens. If you start getting pushback where you're not closing deals because you're too high, okay, then maybe take a step back, right? And I've heard all other people do a little bit of this sort of pricing strategy when starting out as well, because, sometimes you do have to kind of just, while there's an education there or an educated guess at what somebody might pay for this, hey, if I want to jump from $2,000 websites to $5,000 websites and then $5,000 to $10,000, and it's really just my experience and time that I've put into my learning to do this, sometimes you just have to say, I'm going to charge this on the next lead. It could be the same work, but the next lead is getting this charge. What sort of pricing strategies have you employed over the course of your career that may be a little out of the box, if you will?
I think that being able to price my work went hand in hand with my confidence. And what I mean by that is that if I am absolutely confident that I can provide the best solution out there, the way I will convey my pricing or write my proposal or have a conversation with the prospective client comes from a place of confidence. And I think it's really a huge thing in our interaction with clients, because clients start micromanaging and they start questioning and they start, being suspicious of our ability when we are not confident in what we do. It kind of projects onto them. So if you are someone who has confidence in what you do, you know what you're doing, you know how to do it, and this shines through your interaction. And when you get there, then there is very little discussion about pricing.
Interesting.
It's an inner dialogue that we have with ourselves. I have a course out, and the reason I created it is because I used to do a lot of white label work for agencies and, digital marketers. And most of the conversations that I would have with them revolved around them not knowing what they were doing as far as the design process. And it was overwhelming to them. And they felt inexperienced and they felt like they don't know how to get started each and every project. And it kind of, trickled down to their level of confidence and them feeling secure in their ability to do and deliver a solution. So my whole thing about why I like to help people and my course and, my participation in forums and groups is about telling people they can get a lot more confident and secure in what they do. And when they do that, it's magic how they're able to charge a lot more and book more work.
Yes.
It's like a switch flips one day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's interesting that you said that, because it's instilling that confidence on the client that you know what you're doing. And the client then feels comfortable to say, okay, there's a process here, there's an expertise here, there's a knowledge base here, and they know what they're doing, right?
Yes.
And even if you just, take a step back in your own buying habits, dear listener, that, how do you feel when you go into a place where it's a little sketchy. Maybe you're buying a TV and you're in New York City and you go into one of those shrink wrap or us page, stores, and you're like, why is this TV like that? I mean, it's a little sketchy. So you're not really sure if it's Samsung or Samsung, right? And so having that confidence to know exactly your process and what you do for your clients is, I think, imperative. And I want to first call out Design Class is the name of the course.
Yes.
And Mor was gracious enough to, if you use the code RES20 at checkout, you can get 20% off. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I appreciate that. And I know that the listeners appreciate that as well. So one of the things that you mention, and I think that this is so great, because your class talks about, it's a design focus course, right?
Yes.
For marketers and developers and those people that aren't necessarily of the design background. But you essentially call out saying that through your transformation of this course, you're going to be able to charge more. Is part of that instilling that confidence in them or giving them that process?
Absolutely. I do have a lot of developers and digital marketers, but surprisingly enough, it was surprising to me too that I also have many students who are experienced designers, but they don't have the processes in place. So, designers can create what they create, but they come back to me and say, well, now I understand why. And for developers, they completely lack any confidence in their ability to do any design. And they said, well, I'm a developer. I only care about functionality and, everything else is secondary. And I know you're a developer too, so I'm going to say this gently.
It's all right. I can handle it.
Being able to excel in providing functionality is amazing. As someone who can do some CSS, but I cannot comprehend, PHP or anything even, more complex than that. If you don't provide the framework for this functionality to be used, then, what are we really doing here? And I'm not saying that one is more important than the other, but they do go, design and development do go hand in hand. And
absolutely,
what I mean is that if we don't guide the visitor to a site through the story that we're telling, if we're not telling them, okay, at this point, you need to click this button because you need to book a call or to buy a product or to download a lead magnet or whatever it is that we want them to do. If we don't guide them through that process, then they don't even get to experience the wonderful functionality that you build at the back end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Because they don't know to click the button.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you don't design the site in a way that kind of walks people through the process of the information that you want to convey to them, then, we're kind of missing the whole point of the website. It's not just there to take up pixels. There is a reason why we build a website. And, it's different with each project that we do, but there's usually a reason for it. And whatever we do, design and functionality, it's kind of, this is the reason why we do this.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, there's like, as a developer, I know what looks good. I don't know how to get it there.
Right. Exactly.
And for me, much like yourself, I started in the mid to late 90s, my career, and I went through that startup.com explosion and then implosion and all. And there was this sort of, I don't want to say divide, but I'm going to say a divide between developers and designers. And there was always this kind of push and pull kind of thing happening where it was like, where do we spend the money? Right? Do we spend it on the functionality? Do we spend it on the design? And what's nice about seeing and reflecting back on it over the past 20 years or so, I feel like finally there's like a marriage, like there's an understanding that you need both.
Yes.
Right? If you want to, one, charge better prices, give your clients the best solution possible, you have to figure out a way in which to marry the two. You can't just do great design work without the great development behind it. You're just going to fall flat, and it's going to be a half-assed project, right?
Yes.
So I love what you're saying there, because yes, I mean, for a long time, I was like, hey, I'm just a developer. I make things click. However you want it, whatever color you want it, wherever you want it on the page, that's not my job.
Right.
But while it may not be my job, I still have to come to the client, because it goes back to what you were saying before, is the client doesn't care how you get there. They just want you to get there.
Exactly.
Right? And so you have to come together with all of those things together. Okay. I have to ask, inside the description that you have for the class, you have access to my toolbox, my secret toolbox, if you will. Okay. Just what's one thing inside that toolbox?
Well, people who are not, designers usually don't have access to Photoshop or Illustrator or, any of the other tools that designers have and take kind of for granted. So I have several tools that I do use on a daily basis to come up with colors, to understand, to make sure that I am meeting the client's expectations by understanding their brand. And I have to tell you, the first thing that I teach and the first thing that I do with each and every project, even after all these years, before I install WordPress, before there's anything done as far as the actual work, is I dive really deep into understanding the client, understanding their brand, who they're talking to, who their clients are, what is the message that they are trying to convey. Because if we don't understand that, I know for myself, if I don't really dive as deep as possible into it, I don't know where to start the design. Really having the knowledge is so super important for the whole process. So before, I touch my mouse, before I do anything, I really dive deep. And please, no one do this. Deep diving without charging. So this is a built-in. It's a mandatory part of the project. It's not can we have a discovery phase? No, the discovery phase is a part of the project, because if I don't have that, I don't know how to build you the solution if I don't understand the problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, for example, I do share with my students a very extensive intake form that I use for my own clients. And I talk about this a lot, how to use it and how to extract the information that we need and convert the words into design, essentially.
I love that.
So, this is really the foundation, but, I have a ton of resources that I share as far as, the spacing of elements on the page. How do you choose and pair fonts? How do you know what goes with what? There are tools available online, free, that people can use if they know how to use them and if they know how to implement the information that they can gather. And, that's a huge part of what I teach, is that the information is there. You just need to know the process, the A to Z, how to implement it into your workflow.
Awesome. Well, so many people struggle with that.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned charging for that discovery phase.
Oh, yes.
I fell victim to this too early on too, is like, instead of treating that as a paid engagement, you put that as a part of your sales process, and you're spending hours and hours on the phone with them, diving deep into their business, come up with the proposal, and then nothing happens.
Exactly.
Now you just gave all of your experience and knowledge essentially for free.
Exactly. And again, people say, well, I don't know how long the discovery is going to last. I don't know how to charge for it. So again, you don't charge for how long. The how long is irrelevant here. You charge for your ability to understand what the client is telling you.
Awesome.
So it could take 2 hours, it could take 2 days or a week. It doesn't matter. You charge for your ability to kind of decipher their words and translate it into a solution that they need.
I like that. And listener, if you want in on this, it's designclass.io. I'll link everything up in the show notes. You can use Rez, that's with 3Zs, 20 at checkout for 20% off. But if you write a review on this show and screenshot that and send it to me and mention more, for the first 2 people that do that, I'm going to buy you your access to the course.
Wow.
So there's your opportunity.
That's very generous.
So you're going to get Mor's knowledge on my dime. So
that's, I come to the whole teaching thing from a lot of compassion because I understand, the bewilderment and the deer in the headlight look that a lot of developers or digital marketers get when they book a project and they sit in front of the computer and they don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And they spend so much unnecessary time and effort and anxiety over this. And they second guess every decision that they make. Well, maybe not that font, maybe this font, maybe not that color, the other color. And, how do I know that this works? And even if you have, not every project have, enough budget to hire a designer. And even if you do hire a designer or you have one on your team, if you don't have the tools to judge the work that they're doing for you, you don't know what they're producing. Mm-hmm. So you can count on what they're telling you, but do they know, for a fact what it is that they're telling you to do? So it goes really deep. And when you as an agency owner or a freelancer, it goes to confidence. If you're not confident that what you are getting from your teams or from yourself, how can you be confident conveying it to the client?
Right.
So, I do understand. And people, it's not their fault because no one ever showed them how to do things the right way.
Right. I mean, when I know... And that's why I created Feast, right? And it sounds like very similar why you created Design Class is that when we were first starting out, there was nobody out there that would teach us these things unless we went to like some night class at university on business. Like it wasn't related to design, graphic design or web development or anything of that nature. It was like we had to essentially sift through the weeds to try to figure this stuff out ourselves. That's why I was super excited to talk with you today because, to come across in a way where, it's a genuine way in which, you come to the community and contribute. Right. And so, you could see that while there's plenty of gurus out there on like Instagram with their pictures on their yacht and their Ferraris and, they say, hey, we'll get you $1 million by working only 3 hours this week and things like, I'm like, it doesn't work like that. No. You got to put the work in. And yes. For me, and it sounds like from you as well, like I know that it comes from a place of good inside you to like say, hey, I want to be able to help you get to where you want to go because I know where you want to go.
Yes.
And you didn't start this business because you wanted more headaches. You wanted to work more. You wanted,
the sleepless nights. Yes.
Right. We've all been there. So I'm very grateful that you shared that with us today.
I didn't wake up one morning and say, well, I'm just going to create a course. I just found myself answering the same questions over and over.
Right.
And then I said, actually, I was encouraged to just put it all in a course. And at first I'm like, why would someone want to learn from me? Because I didn't really understand the value of it. But I get so many emails and private messages and, texts from people. And they're like, what you're teaching me is changing how I work, and it's changing my business. And I'm proud of the sites that I'm building now. And I feel like I can charge more. And, I have one of my students who was completely embarrassed presenting any work. And he's like, whenever someone asks to see my portfolio, I stop the conversation. So I don't book any clients because I'm ashamed. And he came back to me, I think it was like a month ago, and actually posted on Facebook and said, I just managed to book a project with $1 million company.
Wow.
And it's because I'm confident in what I can offer. Because, we're not just designers or developers or digital marketers, or we're everything. We need to understand business, and we need to understand marketing. We need to understand social media, and we need to understand web design and web development and, SEO. It's all kind of, a thing that comes together. So we can't really put ourselves in the corner and put blinders on and say, I don't need to know design. I'm just a developer. I don't need to know SEO. I'm just a designer. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And it's funny. That's the mentality that I had when I worked full time.
Yes. That's easy when you work full time.
Right. Because there's other people on the team that say, oh, that's Ed's work. He's a graphic designer. Yes. I don't deal with that stuff. But it's funny because even if that isn't what you do, right? Like I'm a developer, and then that's what I do. That's the services that I offer to clients is development. But I know enough about design. I know enough about marketing. Obviously, part of my service is email marketing. Mm-hmm. So I obviously have a depth of knowledge there as well. But like marketing in general, between paid ads and media ads and those sort of things. And I know who to talk to bring what I don't know to the conversation if it's needed.
Right.
And so while your services, you really want to hone in on providing good services and really, 110% on that side, you need to know all of the other pieces of the game, because it's that whole solution that you are bringing to your client in the end anyway. And you can just have these conversations. And, I get asked all the time, like, should I be doing Facebook ads or should I be doing AdWords? And maybe, I don't know, like, let's have this conversation a little bit and dive a little bit into it, and then come to the conversation to say, okay, if this is what we're going to do, how does that affect the current work that we're working on?
Right.
Right. And does it shift the timeline? Does it shift priorities? Does it shift the budget? Mm-hmm. Right. And you have to come to the table with that, because one, they're not expecting you to do everything for the same price.
Of course, right? They shouldn't.
Right. But for two is, if you don't say anything about it, they're not going to say anything either.
They don't know. They really don't know. But that's why the whole discovery phase is so important, because if you don't understand, what the end result should be, you can't bring solutions.
Right.
And you can't say, well, in order to reach this specific target audience, we need to put in Facebook ads, or we need to go to Instagram or Pinterest, or we need to do, this or that, email marketing, funnels. If you don't understand that, how can you offer it?
Right.
But also if you don't understand how to do this piece of the puzzle, because it's all a puzzle that has to fit together. If you don't understand the design, if you don't understand the branding, if you don't understand how everything kind of, it's a symphony coming together. If you don't understand how each part plays into the whole picture, you can't really see the whole picture for the client. And they definitely can't, because it's not their expertise. They run a dry cleaning. They don't understand.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So
they could clean your suit, but they're not going to put themselves online.
Exactly. Yeah. But do you ask me how to dry clean a suit? I don't know. But that's why I go to them. Exactly. So it's the same thing. And design is such an important part of each and every aspect of what we do for a client. We as consumer are really spoiled. We are used to seeing things that are so well designed that they kind of compel us to go through the process of checking them out. Mm-hmm. Just as much as when things are not designed right, it turns us off. We move somewhere else. we're not going to stay somewhere on a site, for example, or a social media channel that does not help us navigate through the information easily and quickly. It has to be very simple. If we have to spend time understanding what you're trying to say, we don't have time for this. We don't have patience for this. We're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So it's kind of a whole, all the pieces have to fit together. And I think if you understand the design part, maybe you won't be the one, continuously picking out the colors, but you understand the process so you can supervise it. And when your team knows, this is how we start and this is the end result. And, there's a process and there are tools that we have to go through for each phase of the project, then you as, the team leader or, the agency owner, you can go and live your life and you can travel and you can be with your family and you can go after more business, whatever it is that you want, because you don't need to babysit each and every project.
Right. Yeah, no, that's the life, right?
And it's a lot because, it can help you grow your personal life or grow your business or have a lot more peace of mind and sanity, which you and I know are easy to lose in this business. But it all comes down to, do I know what is the next step?
Right.
Am I confident?
Yes. And share your process.
Absolutely. I have quite a few people who are really experienced agency owners who've been doing this for years and years and years, 10, 15 years. And they're in my course and they come back to me and they said, for the first time, I actually have everything outlined where I can actually turn my back and know that everything is going to be done the right way. And if one of the team members leave and another one steps in, they know where to continue, because it's very clear where the person before left off.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
So, think of all the money that you save, all the time, all the frustrations. I think it's again, we kind of underestimate the importance of really understanding and having a process in place for everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that, like you said, at the top, it's that confidence
Absolutely.
that that you're coming to the table with, because you're confident that the work is going to get done in the proper way it needs to get done.
Yes.
And that's going to rub off on your leads and your clients.
Oh, absolutely.
And ultimately be able to charge what you want.
And clients feel that right away.
Yes, absolutely.
And when they don't argue with you about your price, it's because they feel that you're confident. But if you're not confident in yourself, why would someone else trust you?
Mm-hmm. Well said. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Obviously, we'll link everything up in the show notes, designclass.io, and everything that we mentioned here, Facebook and all the rest of it, we'll link up in the show notes. But where can people reach out and say thanks?
Well, you can, everyone is welcome to join my Facebook group. It's called the Web Design and Branding Community, growing every day, and I love it. I spend a lot of time in it. I share a lot of resources, and people share their designs, and we critique each other. It's an amazing group that I love. But everyone can. Please feel free to reach out to me via Facebook or email more@flixframe.com, FlixFrame.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. We'll link up all of those in the show notes, obviously. Mor, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us today. Do appreciate it, and I know the listeners do as well.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
And for everyone listening, until next time, it's your time to live in the feast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I could speak for both Mor and myself by saying that we'd love to hear the one takeaway that you got from this episode. It's super simple. In the podcast app of your choice, presumably this one that you are listening to right now, drop in a comment or a review, or go ahead and share it in a tweet and tag me @Rez on Twitter. hit that subscribe button as well so that you'll be the first to listen in next week when we have a great episode with Alex McClafferty, CEO, coach, and co-founder of WP Curve. If there's anyone who knows the value of pricing and how to scale it, it's him, and we'll dive deep into that. Until then, it's your time to live in the feast.